Welcome, folks, to day 109 of our chronological journey through the Bible. Today we'll be reading again in 1 Samuel through chapters 28 all the way through 31, which would pretty much be the end of the book of 1 Samuel, along with Psalm 18. This is a sobering day in the narrative. Saul, once chosen by God, reaches the tragic end of his reign. Cut off from God's guidance and overwhelmed by fear, he seeks counsel where he should not, revealing just how far he has drifted from dependence on the Lord. The Philistine battle that follows leads to Saul's death and the loss of his sons, marking the collapse of Israel's first monarchy. And alongside this dark ending, we read Psalm 18, a song of praise David composed after God delivered him from all his enemies, including Saul. Chronologically, this psalm belongs here because it reflects David looking back on years of danger, pursuit, and waiting, recognizing that it was God who sustained him through it all. This day holds both grief and gratitude, warning and worship, showing us where disobedience leads and where trust ultimately rests. So let's start with a prayer. Lord, help us to learn from both warning and promise. Help us to discern, Lord, in the Spirit. Give us a discerning spirit and teach us to always go back to your word and to trust you through every season. May your word be a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, without further delay, let's jump into 1 Samuel chapter 28. Now in those days the Philistines gathered their forces for warfare against Israel. So Achish said to David, "You must understand that you and your men are to go out to battle with me." David replied, "Then you will come to know what your servant can do." "Very well," said Achish, "I will make you my bodyguard for life." Now by this time Samuel had died, and all Israel had mourned for him and buried him in Ramah, his own city. And Saul had removed the mediums and spiritists from the land. The Philistines gathered together and camped at Shunem, while Saul gathered all Israel and camped at Gilboa. When Saul saw the Philistine army, he was afraid and trembled violently. He inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him by dreams or Urim or prophets. Then Saul said to his servants, "Find me a woman who is a medium, so I can go and consult her." "There is a medium at Endor," his servants replied. So Saul disguised himself by putting on different clothes, and he set out with 2 of his men. They came to the woman at night, and Saul said, "Consult a spirit for me. Bring up for me the one I name." But the woman replied, "Surely you know what Saul has done, how he has killed the mediums and spiritists in the land. Why have you set a trap to get me killed?" Then Saul swore to her by the Lord, "As surely as the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this." "Whom shall I bring up for you?" the woman asked. "Bring up Samuel," he replied. But when the woman saw Samuel, she cried out in a loud voice and said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." "Do not be afraid," the king replied. "What do you see?" "I see a God coming up out of the earth," the woman answered. "What does he look like?" asked Saul. "An old man is coming up," she replied, "and he is wearing a robe." So Saul knew that it was Samuel, and he bowed face down in reverence. Then Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" "I am deeply distressed," replied Saul. "The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has turned away from me. He no longer answers me either by prophets or by dreams. So I have called on you to tell me what to do." "Why do you consult me?" asked Samuel, "since the Lord has turned away from you and become your enemy? He has done exactly what he spoke through me. The Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor David. Because you did not obey the Lord or carry out his burning anger against Amalek, the Lord has done this to you today. Moreover, the Lord will deliver Israel with you into the hand of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. And the Lord will deliver the army of Israel into the hand of the Philistines." Immediately Saul fell flat on the ground, terrified by the words of Samuel, and his strength was gone because he had not eaten anything all that day and night. When the woman came to Saul and saw how distraught he was, she said to him, "Look, your maidservant has obeyed your voice. I took my life in my hands and did as you told me. Now please listen to your servant and let me set a morsel of bread before you so you may eat and have the strength to go on your way." Saul refused, saying, "I will not eat." But his servants joined the woman in urging him, and he heeded their voice. He got up from the ground and sat on the bed. The woman had a fattened calf at her house, and she quickly slaughtered it. She also took flour, kneaded it, and baked unleavened bread. She served it to Saul and his servants, and they ate. And that night they got up and left. Chapter 29. Now the Philistines brought all their forces together at Aphek, while Israel camped by the spring in Jezreel. As the Philistine leaders marched out with their units of hundreds and thousands, David and his men marched behind them with Achish. Then the commanders of the Philistines asked, "What about these Hebrews?" Achish replied, "Is this not David, the servant of King Saul of Israel? He has been with me all these days, even years, and from the day he defected until today I have found no fault in him." But the commanders of the Philistines were angry with Achish and told him, "Send that man back and let him return to the place you assigned him. He must not go down with us into battle, only to become our adversary during the war. What better way for him to regain the favor of his master than with the heads of our men? Is this not the David about whom they sing in their dances? Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." So Achish summoned David and told him, "As surely as the Lord lives, you have been upright, and it seems right in my sight that you should march in and out with me in the army, because I have found no fault in you from the day you came to me until this day. But you are not good in the sight of the leaders. Therefore turn back now and go in peace, so that you will not do anything to displease the leaders of the Philistines." "But what have I done?" David replied. "What have you found against your servant from the day I came to you until today, to keep me from going along to fight against the enemies of my lord the king?" Achish replied, "I know that you are as pleasing in my sight as an angel of God. But the commanders of the Philistines have said, 'He must not go into battle with us.' Now then, get up early in the morning, along with your master's servants who came with you, and go as soon as it is light." So David and his men got up early in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines, and the Philistines went up to Jezreel. On the third day, David and his men arrived in Ziklag, and the Amalekites had raided the Negev, attacked Ziklag, and burned it down. They had taken captive the women and all who were there, both young and old. They had not killed anyone, but had carried them off as they went on their way. When David and his men came to the city, they found it burned down, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. So David and the troops with him lifted up their voices and wept until they had no strength left to weep. David's two wives, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail the widow of Nabal of Carmel, had been taken captive, and David was greatly distressed because the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of every man grieved for his sons and daughters. But David found strength in the Lord his God. Then David said to Abiathar the priest, the son of Ahimelech, "Bring me the ephod." So Abiathar brought it to him, and David inquired of the Lord, "Should I pursue these raiders? Will I overtake them?" "Pursue them," the Lord replied, "for you will surely overtake them and rescue the captives." So David and his 600 men went to the brook of Besor, where some stayed behind, because 200 men were too exhausted to cross the brook. But David and 400 men continued in pursuit. Now his men found an Egyptian in the field and brought him to David. They gave the man water to drink and food to eat, a piece of a fig cake and 2 clusters of raisins. So he ate and was revived, for he had not had any food or water for 3 days and 3 nights. Then David asked him, "To whom do you belong, and where are you from?" "I am an Egyptian," he replied, "the slave of an Amalekite. My master abandoned me 3 days ago when I fell ill. We raided the Negev of the Cherethites, the territory of Judah, and the Negev of Caleb, and we burned down Ziklag." "Will you lead me to these raiders?" David asked. And the man replied, "Swear to me by God that you will not kill me or deliver me into the hand of my master, and I will lead you to them." So he led David down, and there were the Amalekites spread out over all the land, eating, drinking, and celebrating the great amount of plunder they had taken from the land of the Philistines and the land of Judah. And David struck them down from twilight until the evening of the next day. Not a man escaped except 400 young men who fled riding off on camels. So David recovered everything the Amalekites had taken, including his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, young or old, son or daughter, or any of the plunder the Amalekites had taken. David brought everything back, and he took all the flocks and herds which his men drove ahead of the other livestock, calling out, "This is David's plunder." When David came to the 200 men who had been too exhausted to follow him, and who were left behind at the brook of Besor, they came out to meet him and the troops with him. As David approached the men, he greeted them. But all the wicked and worthless men among those who had gone with David said, "Because they did not go with us, we will not share with them the plunder we recovered, except for each man's wife and children. They may take them and go." But David said, "My brothers, you must not do this with what the Lord has given us. He has protected us and delivered into our hands the raiders who came against us. Who will listen to your proposal? The share of the one who went to battle will match the share of the one who stayed with the supplies. They will share alike." And so it has been from that day forward. David established this statute and ordinance for Israel to this very day. When David arrived in Ziklag, he sent some of the plunder to his friends, the elders of Judah, saying, "Here is a gift for you from the plunder of the Lord's enemies." He sent gifts to those in Bethel, Ramoth Negev, and Jatir, to those in Aroer, Sifmoth, and Eshtemoa, to those in Rakal and in the cities of the Jerahmeelites and the Kenites, to those in Hormah, Borashan, and Athak, and to those in Hebron and in all the places where David and his men had roamed. Chapter 31. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled before them, and many fell slain on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines hotly pursued Saul and his sons, and they killed Saul's sons, Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua. When the battle intensified against Saul, the archers overtook him and wounded him critically. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and run me through with it, or these uncircumcised men will come and run me through and torture me." But his armor-bearer was terrified and refused to do it. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. When his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he too fell on his own sword and died with him. So Saul, his 3 sons, his armor-bearer, and all his men died together that same day. When the Israelites along the valley and those on the other side of the Jordan saw that the army of Israel had fled, and that Saul and his sons had died, they abandoned their cities and ran away. So the Philistines came and occupied their cities. The next day, when the Philistines came to strip the dead, they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. They cut off Saul's head, stripped off his armor, and sent messengers throughout the land of the Philistines to proclaim the news in the temples of their idols and among their people. They put his armor in the temple of the Ashtoreths and hung his body on the wall of Bethshan. When the people of Jabesh Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all their men of valor set out, journeyed all night, and retrieved the bodies of Saul and his sons from the wall of Bethshan. When they arrived at Jabesh, they burned the bodies there. Then they took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree in Jabesh, and they fasted 7 days. Psalm 18. For the choir master, of David the servant of the Lord, who sang this song to the Lord on the day the Lord had delivered him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul. He said, "I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. The cords of death encompassed me. The torrents of chaos overwhelmed me. The cords of Sheol entangled me. The snares of death confronted me. In my distress I called upon the Lord. I cried to my God for help. From his temple he heard my voice, and my cry for his help reached his ears. Then the earth shook and quaked, and the foundations of the mountains trembled. They were shaken because he burned with anger. Smoke rose from his nostrils, and consuming fire came from his mouth. Glowing coals blazed forth. He parted the heavens and came down, with dark clouds beneath his feet. He mounted a cherub and flew. He soared on the wings of the wind. He made darkness his hiding place, and storm clouds a canopy around him. From the brightness of his presence his clouds advanced. hailstones and coals of fire. The Lord thundered from heaven. The voice of the Most High resounded, hailstones and coals of fire. He shot his arrows and scattered the foes. He hurled lightning and routed them. The channels of the sea appeared, and the foundations of the world were exposed. At your rebuke, O Lord, at the blast of the breath of your nostrils. He reached down from on high and took hold of me. He drew me out of deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemy, from foes too mighty for me. They confronted me in my day of calamity, but the Lord was my support. He brought me out into the open. He rescued me because he delighted in me. The Lord has rewarded me according to my righteousness. He has repaid me according to the cleanness of my hands. For I have kept the ways of the Lord, and have not wickedly departed from God. For all his ordinances are before me. I have not disregarded his statutes. And I have been blameless before him, and kept myself from iniquity. So the Lord has repaid me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hands in his sight. To the faithful you show yourself faithful, to the blameless you show yourself blameless, to the pure you show yourself pure, but to the crooked you show yourself shrewd. For you save an afflicted people, but you humble those with haughty eyes. For you, O Lord, light my lamp. My God lights up my darkness. For in you I can charge an army, and with my God I can scale a wall. As for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is flawless. He is a shield to all who take refuge in him. For who is God besides the Lord? And who is the rock except our God? It is God who arms me with strength and makes my way clear. He makes my feet like those of a deer and stations me upon the heights. He trains my hands for battle. My arms can bend a bow of bronze. You have given me your shield of salvation. Your right hand upholds me, and your gentleness exalts me. You broaden the path beneath me so that my ankles do not give way. I pursued my enemies and overtook them. I did not turn back until they were consumed. I crushed them so they could not rise. They have fallen under my feet. You have armed me with strength for battle. You have subdued my foes beneath me. You have made my enemies retreat before me. I destroyed those who hated me. They cried for help, but there was no one to save them. To the Lord, but he did not answer. I ground them as dust in the face of the wind. I trampled them like mud in the streets. You have delivered me from the strife of the people. You have made me the head of nations. A people I had not known shall serve me. When they hear me, they obey me. Foreigners cower before me. Foreigners lose heart and come trembling from their strongholds. The Lord lives, and blessed be my rock, and may the God of my salvation be exalted. The God who avenges me and subdues nations beneath me, who delivers me from my enemies. You exalt me above my foes. You rescue me from violent men. Therefore I will praise you, O Lord, among the nations. I will sing praises to your name. Great salvation he brings to his king. He shows loving devotion to his anointed, to David and his descendants forever. Saul's end is tragic, not because God abandoned him, but because Saul persistently resisted God's voice and God's authority. His life reminds us that proximity to spiritual things does not replace obedience or humility. When fear replaces trust, even a king can fall. David's Psalm 18, however, tells a different story. After years of hiding, fleeing, and waiting, David looks back and sees God's hand in every rescue and every delay. The psalm is not written in the heat of battle, but in reflection, recognizing that God was his rock, his fortress, and his deliverer all along. It's a beautiful psalm. And together these readings invite us to consider the long view of faith. Where do our choices lead us over time, right? Saul's story warns us against hardening our hearts, while David's song reminds us that trust, patience, and obedience are never wasted. Finishing 1 Samuel marks another meaningful milestone in this journey, folks. So I'd like to say well done for staying steady through these powerful and sometimes difficult chapters. And with that, we'll wrap up our session today. We'll see you again tomorrow for day 110. God bless.